Yeah, so there are 38. I added some specific under one of the, well, actually under Homo Luminous, I added specific subcategories. And so there are a few items that have subcategories, and if you pick one of those items, then I'll ask you to choose within the subcategory.
I'm getting 13.
Okay. Oh, great.
I'm getting 22.
Okay.
I'm 9.
Okay, Martha is 9.
I'm 5.
Wow. Interesting. Okay.
Whoa.
My thought is that I'll rename you to your number just to make things easiest for me.
I'm just gonna switch to my computer.
Okay.
Being slow. What I'm doing, if you're wondering.
And also a reminder to use the they pronoun as we go. Okay.
I can share a little. We're ready to start.
Yeah, go ahead, 22.
So really sweet and innocent, like a little girl. I feel like an essence moving up through the core of me, like of innocence. at the level of essence, there isn't really an association of being like a little girl, but I've noticed that's how I kind of got into it. And that's it. It's very simple. Yeah, I feel very simple too, but I was tuning into simplicity, the uniqueness of that within me, showing up for the constellations.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So really connected to my heart, actually. A lot of softness, the heart. Yeah, gentleness.
Hmm. How are you doing, 5?
I am feeling this huge, huge surge of heat and agitation, excitement. And it just shifted to an upward energy that feels a bit more calm now.
Okay.
That roiling underneath is still there. It's like that's what is propelling me forward, but I'm able to move forward with at a slower pace than what is moving underneath me.
Yeah.
I'm very, very hot.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe I'm already sweating hot, and I haven't, there's no reason for this body to be doing that. It's definitely rep. And it started during the meditation. And violet and pink.
Violet and pink. Is that what you said?
Yeah, violet and pink, those colors.
Yeah.
In fact,
Oh,
that's the color scheme. It looked nothing like that. It was much more flame-like, but that's the colors.
Oh, wow. That really matches how I feel. Wow. As 5 was sharing, I just was really aware of the corona, like the crown. Kind of, I feel like I'm kind of down, looking up at the crown, and kind of almost, yeah, like the crown. There's like a density there. Like essence wants to move up into the crown. That looks like that picture that he shared. That feels like that. Yeah. There's something
about the crown that's not just where the crown is, like higher up. There's like another dimension to the crown that's above the head. Quite a lot higher up than the kind of classical crown.
Definitely.
And it's red, like a red egg. So yeah, I feel as 5 is moving, like warmth is coming down, starting to trickle down from that red crown higher up.
Yeah.
It's not just trickling, it's kind of streaming.
Nine and 13, whenever you feel called, please jump in. Let us know what's happening.
I feel this like commitment to posture or something. Like there's this yeah, it feels sort of like, the way I could describe it is sort of like the ballerina posture, you know. It's like this, it's supposed to sort of represent sort of feminine beauty, but it's very masculine. It's very masculine and all about specificity and holding things in a very particular way. And it feels like a kind of suppression of emotion and flow. And there's like a sort of metallic quality that I'm feeling, like pristine. There's a pristine, but it's not like nature pristine. It's more like super sleek, you know, man-made version of pristine or something.
Okay.
Like modern furniture.
Yeah.
I feel tension in my
Clinical,
spine. You go.
sorry, 13. Does the word clinical fit that?
Maybe there's an element of that, but there's
Or
something
sterile?
maybe, but there's something that feels very much like it's linked to an aesthetic quality that is not in keeping with nature. Like it's not in keeping with the wildness of nature, but there's a reach, an attempt at sort of like an ideal aesthetic quality that is not at all mimicking nature.
Okay.
Maybe clinical could be part of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm getting cramping in my spine as you're sharing, and I'm starting to feel constriction in my chest as 13 as they were sharing.
Okay. Let's hear from 9 too, so we have the input there.
I can hear what everyone's saying, and I'm not very interested. And I feel like a general disinterest. Like, I just want to be at the back of the room, like away from everything, and I don't want to be here. There's nothing here for me, feels like.
Okay. Great.
Well, I was noticing my experience of 5 felt quite cosmic, and there was like a fluidity, and then now 13 and 9 kind of uncomfortability, and particularly around breathing and the spine. And I'm wondering if 5 feels like, at 22, I'm asking 5, do you have anything like a direction, an action that could move the energy? Oh, just as I say that, I start to feel it spiraling in my chest. And maybe I had an action.
Nine's disinterest made me feel either it stopped me, made me feel like a lead form around myself, or rubber.
Uh-huh.
I still had movement, but it really sort of just came to a standstill. That, yeah, 9 is not. I also felt like nine and I aren't. We're in 2 very different places.
Places in space, places in time, or just more figuratively than that?
I think more figurative.
Okay. Like 2 different frequencies.
Yeah.
Now that I'm on the ground, I feel now like being in the room. So I just feel like putting my hands on the ground, putting them on my body. Like I feel very sensual and compact, like feels like there's nature. My body is nature, and I just want to feel grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as I hear 9 talk, I realize I feel the opposite. I feel like this, like almost like an AI or something, like this sort of, like AI or Tesla. It's just, it doesn't feel, it feels so disconnected from nature.
Hmm.
I noticed it's not, can you hear me this far away?
Yeah.
As 9 was sharing, I'm kind of wanting to move further backwards, kind of disappearing. I can still feel like the qualities of essence, but I feel like I'm moving back into the absolute or darkness behind me. And I'm not sure if I'm moving backwards because I'm afraid, or because that's, like, I'm kind of, I don't feel afraid, but I was kind of, yeah, I'm kind of still feeling into what was the impulse to move away into the void or something.
I feel like there's this this idea of like artificial intelligence, when it begins to like take on a bit of a mind of its own, where it begins to self-reflect. Like I feel like an AI that's like beginning to self-reflect and is recognizing its one dimensionality and there's almost like a longing of wanting to feel the essence or the spark of life within me. It's like I have the tiniest flavor as I become self-aware, but I just look out and know that I'm not experiencing actual life.
Yeah. If, you know, because the specific inquiry that we're doing right now is on what is Homo Luminous, how do you, as 13, like, where do you feel you are in space in relationship to Homo Luminous?
I feel like it's way far away, like way out beyond, you know, probably the outside of my house. Like it's not so far I can't see it. I can see it, but it feels, it feels quite far away. And it feels like something I want to bring into me, but it's just, I don't know how to move it towards me or me to move towards it.
Okay.
I just had this insight that because I asked myself the same question as you were asking 13.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, oh, the children of the world, like I'm representing on some level the children of the world, and they are carrying the seed of Homo Luminous.
Can you repeat the last part? They're carrying what?
And they're carrying the light of Homo Luminous.
Okay.
It's in the light of children on the planet. And I'm starting to like subtly hear like children singing like songs.
Okay, and you are holding those children? Is that how you described it?
I feel like I am being with them. I feel that like that essence as like I am the children, but I also feel like I guess there is an element of holding them more behind me, but in front of me I feel like I'm being with them.
Okay.
I'm holding them and I'm being held, I guess.
Okay, great.
Who's singing on the floor? Huh?
I was just gonna ask if 9 and 13, not 13, sorry, if 9 and 22 were aware of each other, what's...
I am now.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like before you were saying that, I felt like a child. I feel like I'm a child and I just am, you know, totally free to do whatever I'm doing. And that's why it felt weird when I was standing, because I wasn't at my level. And then once I got on the ground, it was like my world. So I am young, or I'm in a world where everyone just, the feeling was I don't have to do anything other than whatever's I'm have the impulse to do. It feels really good. It feels like, oh, well, everyone else is talking. I don't know what they're talking about. It's like I'm in another plane than they are, and it feels like the plane is the plane of innocence. I feel completely what's the word, unself-conscious, like I don't care.
Great.
And there's a lot, like when I was standing up high, I couldn't see things, but from down here, I'm looking at things. Everything's really interesting.
I had a flash of that character from Star Trek, you know, Data. I don't know if you guys ever watched that, The Next Generation. I had like a flash on him, and I felt like we were in the same species or the same grouping, like looking at everybody else with sort of perplexion. I'm
Yeah.
perplexed by everything, by human behavior. So now I'm feeling that a little bit of that clinical thing that Peapod asked about, just feeling that, yes, just sort of like clinical observation of human behavior.
Mm-hmm. So number 5.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask 13. If you look at number 5, what comes to your awareness?
I'm just noticing how much he's moving, and I'm wondering why he's doing that. Like, where's the impulse coming from? And yeah, just a real curiosity and confusion of this being who is being moved, it looks like, from within. So this sort of more scientific mind is perplexed about the cause and effect.
Right. And where are they in space in relationship to you?
I feel like they're right in front of me, and it's this almost yeah, it just feels like they're right in front of me, and I'm observing, you know, from a pretty close vantage point. And it seems like because I'm so close, I should be able to see what is inciting the movement, and I can't. And it's just, yeah, it just feels like a different frequency. Like I just am confused.
Mm-hmm.
We're not even confused. That's too human. It's like it doesn't compute. That's a better way of saying it.
I noticed as 13 is sharing and feeling like a compassion
Mm-hmm.
and like I'm listening to you, I'm not seeing you as non-human. I'm seeing you as like I'm experiencing the impulse to but first I kind of was experiencing you as maybe just being in trauma, which creates the feeling that you're non-human. But trauma is a strong word. I don't feel like it's something specific. It just was kind of a way in my consciousness kind of. And so I just was feeling compassionate, listening, and not really buying your interpretation of your experience as non-human.
Ah! I am having such surges that feel really, really good. They feel almost orgasmic.
Uh-huh.
And 13's puzzlement amuses me.
I'm really aware in contrast to you of the space in front of me that's not moving, like
the
still representing movement, and I can feel like, oh, I want to move. Oh, something's not moving.
Well, each time you speak 22, it does amp up my movement and energy.
I don't know if I have the confidence yet to move with you, but I like that we're still connected.
Ah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when I heard 22's interpretation of, you know, it possibly being a trauma-based reaction versus an actual state of being, there was something that felt true to me about that, because it felt like, as I reflected on what she was saying or what they were saying, it felt like well, if I'm completely non-human and unfeeling, how would I be perplexed in the first place, and how would I have that longing? And I have a little bit of longing when I look at 5 moving so much. Like, I just don't think I'm made that way. It almost feels like the Tin Man in Wizard of Oz, just like this metallic moving, very, you know, slightly having trouble moving even the neck. And also earlier when we mentioned the breathing, it felt like just a very small amount of breath, just enough to sort of keep the organism going and living, but not enough to incite movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I noticed as 13's kind of working out their experience, and I feel there's kind of darkness in front of me and separation that's creating a separation from 5. When I choose to the children, I've kind of got them behind me, and they're kind of tucked away, like in a safe place.
13 or 5 is behind you?
No, the children that
Okay.
I put them behind me, tucked away in a safe place, while 13's working out what they are, and I'm still not yet unified with 5.
Yeah.
And that's fine, like they're safe,
Oh my God.
safe there.
I can tell you guys what you are right now.
I feel the slightest stirring in my solar plexus as I observe 5. And I'm not sure what it is. I just feel a movement that is definitely coming from observing him.
9, being on the ground as you have been, do you have a sense of your relationship in space to 5? Or maybe your positions has changed. If you're not on the ground, then just let me know.
I feel like 5's in the room. I wish I wish they weren't there, but there's nothing I can do about it. But I'm also, well, they're across, they're there, but I don't think they even notice me.
Mhm.
And that doesn't, I feel like I can't look at them. I don't like looking at them. I don't like hearing them. I just don't like any of it.
Okay. 5, how do you,
I was feeling really good and comfortable, but then when they started saying things and moving, I didn't like it.
okay. Go ahead, 5. How are you perceiving?
There's moments of being aware of 9. Like I said at the beginning, 9 slowed me down and gave me that leaden plastic feeling. What they just said about not really liking me, so what?
Mhm. Okay.
You know, a little bit of, well, your loss, but not even that much. I'm more indifferent to that feeling.
Okay, great.
I'm having a when it's a good moment to share, I'm having a new experience.
Sure.
I just, when 9 was sharing, I kind of wanted to lie on my back and kind of be playful like a child with my legs in the air. And then I sat up and just was feeling this field. The children behind me have become like, at first I was like, oh my God, these are children that haven't been born yet. Like, they're coming in. But then they kind of all merged into one, and I'm just feeling this. It's kind of waned a bit now, but it felt as massive all, like a field of light behind me. And it's like a battery, like there's like energy in there, like electricity and charge, and I can hear it and feel it humming kind of behind me. It's waned a bit now I'm talking about it, but yeah.
Thank you. It's so interesting that 13 got up when you were sharing that and went to do something. Can you still hear us, 13?
No, I had to pee. What did I miss?
Can I ask you, I'm happy that you went to pee, by the way, so that's fine. And it's also really interesting, which you'll see later, but 22, can you just summarize again so 13 can hear?
Yeah, I'm having an experience of all the children that were behind me. At first, they felt like they were unborn, like they were coming in, but they've all just kind of merged into a field of light that's like a battery of energy. And actually, I feel it a bit more if I feel like connection to my back, like if I lie down and I feel this like, it's like a battery of energy, of light. And it's got a lot of charge to it and electricity in it. And it's really stable. Yeah, I can hear it and feel it humming.
I feel more of a stirring in my belly when you say that, but instead of the solar plexus, it's more the womb area. And it feels like some grief.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of grief coming up. Like there's it's like before I didn't have a real awareness of my body, but just having the bigger sensation in the womb, and then the awareness of the emotion, felt like there was kind of a split that then happened where it was the mind body split, but I wasn't feeling that before, and now I'm feeling this um, uh, confusion over what's happening to me. I noticed I didn't have a pillow over my belly before, but when I came back, I needed a pillow over my belly. Yeah, it feels like 22's assessment earlier of it being a trauma based dissociation um, feels like there's something to do with the children. There's something to do with something to do with the children and the trauma with the children. And now I feel so much grief in my heart. And I feel really, really hot in my face. And a pulling in my kidney area.
Mm-hmm. Any one of the other reps feel called to share what's happening as you witness the
As 13 was speaking, each time they mentioned a place on their body, I would feel a surge of energy in my own going out towards them.
Mhm.
So when they were talking about womb, it was all sacral and root, just feeling all of that energy pouring out towards them. Same with the heart. It just started pouring from the heart, and then it just became a moment of all those energy centers trying to push through myself, because it did feel like it was coming down and out, and trying to embrace 13, but not quite being able to, or them not quite noticing it yet.
Mhm.
And whenever I face the back of the room, the heat in the center of my back becomes more intense.
Yeah, I wondered what was going on as you go to come back to front.
Yeah, each time I face away from the front of the room, there is this surge of heat. And I also wanted to just keep going as far back as I can. And at one point, it felt like I had moved back and past 13. But that was before they started speaking.
Okay.
I just feel joy. And joy isn't the right word. It's that feeling, but it's something beyond that. We don't have a word for it.
Not bliss.
Yes, the excited individualist spectrum.
How are you doing, 13?
I just feel tired and no, tired, not tired, but I feel overwhelmed by what this sort of breakdown means. You know, feels like there was a breakthrough that then it feels more like a breaking down, like even in my body, that like feeling of this upright posture and pristineness is just feels like, oh, I just feel like a like a melting lump of something, and it's not like I want to go back to how I was, but I literally just don't. It's almost like the lump of clay just like melting, and I don't know. I literally just don't know what I'm supposed to be.
What comes up in you 22 when you're aware of 13?
When studying was sharing just now and I was lying down, I was really struck by the preciousness of 13. Like 13 is the key, and the process of dismantling as something to be held tenderly, like a tenderness.
Mhm.
I felt very attentive to 13 sharing, like a compassion, but very connected, like to the vulnerability of that. I have a really deep sense of oneness right now as well. Like, there were other things, but that's what came up in relationship to 13. And another thing that comes up is not needing to push that process too fast. Like, that's what's coming up. Like, it can, go in stages, and there's no hurry. There's nowhere to get to, actually. I feel like the already there-ness of it.
Okay. Thank you. Number 9.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
I'm kind of checking in and out. When I heard number 13, that's a number, right?
Yeah.
13. Yeah, that I feel like I'm somehow connected to them. Yeah, like I'm just here and everything's going on around me, but I have there's nothing, like I'm fine. There's just no engagement between us.
What I would like to do is play a little bit with you being connected to the earth versus you being not connected to the earth.
Okay.
So maybe you could explore your relationship specifically with 13, both connected and unconnected, and the other reps can feel how they experience you when you're connected versus unconnected.
Okay, so I'm connecting with 13.
Yeah, just see like what the difference in your connection to 13 is when you're on the ground and you're connected with the earth versus when you're standing up and you're not as connected to the earth.
Okay. Yeah, when I'm standing, I feel dizzy.
Can I ask, how do you feel in your feet when you stand? And just my feet got so activated when you stood up.
Um,
Have you got shoes on?
no. I feel supported by 13. Yeah, I don't think I feel like I'm standing. I feel I'm either in them or they're holding me maybe. Like when they were sad, I felt like I was in them.
So it sounds like there's not so much a distinction between you being on the ground versus standing up at the moment. Is that right?
I feel like when I'm not on the ground, I feel like I can't be off the ground on my own, maybe. Like being standing feels like standing, like on the ground feels something I can do, but standing feels like something I can't do.
Yeah.
Maybe I can't stand. Like it doesn't feel like me.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Makes total sense to what you're repping.
Okay.
Any reactions from the other reps up on nine's experience?
I noticed a really pure experience of the absolute come in at the back. And because I'm aware of this like pulsing battery of the earth and kind of this light that feels kind of like throbbing, and it's coming up into my feet and it's very visceral. And I just, as Nine was sharing, the contrast of the purest absolute came in at the back and the spine and through the eyes actually. Yeah.
When nine stood, that brought about that stillness, frozenness, stuckness feeling again. And as they're connected to the ground, the indifference comes back.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
5 looks like they're glowing to me. When I look at 5, they're glowing. Like there's an aura of like soft essence coming off 5.
Yeah, I feel that too.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like I am.
And you never see you're wearing as well. The whole thing. Like, sorry, you go. Oh, I feel a deeper embodiment, like of the pure absolute with the throbbing light.
I feel like this floatiness, like I'm like I'm underwater and I'm trying to hear what people are saying and I'm not processing it. Whereas like before I felt like I was like downloading and tracking what everyone was saying and putting it together, and now I just feel this like that lump of clayness of just like exhaustion and overwhelmment, and it's like I know I should be listening to what is being said, but I'm not really following it. It just feels like this I guess sort of primordial or something, like this just like yeah.
Great. And in this moment, if you have an awareness of 9, does anything happen in your experience, or is it the same?
No, I definitely have a pull towards 9. Like when I just looked at her, she did. She looked like a little kid, or and I had this like I guess a little bit of a maternal tug, like through the bleariness. It was like, oh yeah, oh,
Mm-hmm.
like there's something that feels very innocent about 9, and there is like a part of me that wants to like protect 9.
Is there a difference for you when 9 is standing versus on the ground?
Yeah, I didn't feel much when they stood. I felt like kind of confused, like I couldn't process it or something.
Yeah.
I more feel the connection when they're on the ground. Yeah. I feel more now like I can receive from 5. Earlier when he said, I don't know if 13 received it, I was thinking, I don't think I received it. But now as I watch 5, I feel like I am receiving some light and energy. It's not infusing me necessarily, but it feels like a kind of like a soft breeze versus like a light, like the hot sun beaming in and it feeling like it's heating up my whole body. It feels more like this sort of light breeze that I feel, and it's pleasant, but it's not doing much. It's not creating much momentum or movement.
Okay. I have a sense that it would be a good time to reveal and then continue from that.
Great.
Does that feel good?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can we take a pee break first?
Yes, please.
So maybe as we reveal, before and as we reveal, just taking a pee break, kind of consciously come back into your breath and in the field. I feel like it would be really good to reveal and then kind of receive what occurs in you with the revelation. And then maybe later I'll share some things too, but I'm really interested in like what the revealing provokes in each of you as reps, as you hear it. So
Wait a second, how it feels as the rep or as the person repping?
as the rep, so the invitation isn't necessarily like to reflect so much on what it is that you are,
Gotcha.
but more like, oh, how, like what comes up in the field as you realize who you are,
Okay.
how you relate with the others.
Okay.
So number 5 is the new earth.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Awesome. Exciting.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
I
Number,
don't know that I have words, but yeah.
okay, well, let's see. Yeah, if you want to say anything before I go on to the next person, that's fine. And then we'll have a chance to speak again once everyone is revealed.
I think keep revealing.
Okay, great. Okay, so number 22 is masculine.
Oh. Hmm. Any particular like specificity of the masculine or just masculine?
Masculine, but keep in mind the specificity is that we are kind of constellating within the greater context of Homo Luminous, like what is Homo Luminous?
Hmm. Well, I get more of a all-pervading, all-seeing quality,
Mm-hmm.
like a kind of, and I can feel how that kind of feels masculine because there's a subtle kind of claiming and holding of reality, but the word claiming and holding doesn't quite match it because it's so essential. It feels so there's no one there. Like there's no
Yeah, I can feel those qualities in the representation.
yeah. I guess Shiva, but even that is putting a name. There's maybe even a non-beingness there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the perfect complement to beingness.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to chime in, but it feels like if I chime in too soon, it will, feel like there's a holding that wants to happen first.
yeah, I can feel the false, what has been masculine, like as an identification or as a personification, is falling. Like in my contract, I can feel like not like
Yeah.
none of the things. It's none of that. The structures, those feel like structures that want to collapse.
Awesome. Okay, number 9 is electrification of the earth.
Mm. Wow.
And as we're contemplating, maybe I'll just name the last one. Number 13 is birth.
Wow. Oh.
Yeah, that makes me really emotional.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, because when it was, that's like, I felt like I was in utero when I was on the ground. No, when I was on the ground, I felt born, but when I was standing, I felt in utero still. Like I was trying to feel like, is she holding me, or, but it was like I was actually in her, in utero.
So when you right now are electrification of the earth, how do you feel birth in relationship to you right now? Earth as the rep.
It feels like I feel seen, and I feel loved, and I feel like connected. Like in a meaning, like we're connected by like I'm in them, not like like two separate things. We're the same thing somewhat.
Yeah, I feel really called to say that I had this huge shift just then as you were speaking of, you know, when electrification of the earth was first brought in as a rep for the constellation, it was really speaking to the man-made electrification of the earth, like electrical wires, radio towers, sonar. And I just felt this switch in the rep to electrification of the earth, like the electricity from the sky that lives in the earth. And it felt to me like you started out as the first one and now you're the second one. And I have this qualitative sense of how like the standing up and being the electrification of the earth, the way it was brought in, meaning the humans running electric through wires, is related to the AI experience of birth. And as that's changing and the electrification changes, the electricity in the earth is the same as the electricity in the human being, like in the human body.
Yeah, and I feel that there won't be like with free, like there's the electrification, there's all the electrification we need in the earth.
Yeah.
And it's that also I'll say how as the electrification feels, it's when you dilute it, like take it away from the earth, it's not connected. It has to be, anyway, when like it had an intelligence on the ground. When it's off the ground, it's not grounded. Like electricity needs to be grounded.
I'm having this experience as you're sharing of the kind of constructed version is like fuzzy,
Yeah.
kind of on the skin, like a fuzziness, and then the integrative aspect of it is just like that which turns on light. Like it's like the illumination, the it's not actually a visceral, it's impulse to turn on the light. Literally, what I'm feeling.
I'm wondering how birth hears that or senses themselves in relationship to that. What's what we've been talking about with electrification.
Yeah, it feels like well, when you first revealed, there was a flashing on, you know, just even very literally a clinical experience of birth.
Mm-hmm.
And how, you know, that I do think that's obviously breaking down, but I feel like the identity of birth has been that way for so long, and maybe was even striving to be even more that way, you know, even more AI and more technologically seamless. But I'm trying to remember. So I feel like when the breakdown or the breakthrough happened really was that recognition or the hearing about the children creating sort of that big battery electrification energy.
Yeah.
And then it was like, that was the thing that was needed to sort of crumble the facade of efficiency and pristineness. I remember that word came up. Yeah. And so I feel like I guess that's my link to the electrification, is the electrification is in and of itself birthing itself. And so then what does that do to the concept of birth, whether the birth of human beings or the birth of the new earth? Like, I'm a little lost right now because I'm still in that mushy place, and I'm not in that sort of data mindset where like, oh yes, this connects to this and this and this and this. I feel like I could have done that at the beginning of the call, but now it just feels like this organic process that's unfolding that I don't quite understand how it goes together. And I feel okay with that. I feel like the birth is birthing itself, and maybe even birth is kind of in utero itself right now, like just concept of birth. I don't know if any of that made any sense, but.
Oh my God. Totally. I feel like as you were sharing, I was feeling more and more of the unification of the nervous system with the light. And for me, that battery experience is the union. That state is the nervous system unified with the light. And that resets the birth giving experience. Like undoes the program. But as you were sharing, I was experiencing waves, like it's a waving effect, waving its way. The light was waving its way into the nervous system.
The mushiness feels important, like to really be honored in the collapsing of the old structure, so that the waves of birth like take the clay and show what is new.
Did you say the mushiness? Yeah.
I'm also reflecting on the idea that I work a lot with the matrix energetics frequencies, and frequency 3 is it's a blue electrical energy, and it's related to the nervous system. Yeah. Or no, it's number 2. And but that it's meant to combine with 3, which is the feminine harmonic energy that's pink. And so I'm just reflecting on the fact that 5 originally said they felt pink and purple. And so it feels like there's something really important there about electrification of the earth, harmonizing with that, that sort of, that new earth energy feels very feminine, I guess. And then that feels like the masculine is that electrification in and of itself, integrating. And that's why the masculine felt to me so not what I perceived to be masculine, as 22 said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to figure out what it was about when 9 is upright, standing, that it kind of freezes and slows me.
Uh-huh.
And that as they get closer to the earth, that it becomes an indifference. I know they're there, but I don't notice them. And I wonder if that is the 2 different electrifications that we've been talking about. the vertical man-made, and the more that which already exists.
Yeah. When the electrification is grounded and you don't notice them, is it because they're so integrated that you don't notice them, or is there any kind of association or separation from them?
It's an integration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really, because I was thinking back to when I had said, I mean, electrification said something about, I forget exactly what they said about me. And my response was indifference about it, and almost like, oh well. And that there also was, and I don't think I mentioned it, that, well, you're a part of this already, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you're going to be here whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
I'm interested that the masculine is what was not completely and fully, but for who was repped, that is the rep that was fueling me, giving me energy to keep going. And I see that, you know, the male creative force going out into the world to birth whatever is coming.
You're glowing again.
And
It's like the light bulb goes on and all I can see is like this emanation of you. Like,
wow.
my whole vision changes. Like, it's like clouds are coming out of you. Like,
So I really want to share this because it's related. When the masculine was talking about above the crown, feeling like not just the crown, but above the crown,
Yeah.
the initiation that is really landing in me right now is one that started when I went to investigate the nature of the awareness before, like pre-being, before beingness. And as I was doing that and kept inquiring, I ended up above, like
that's about where I was describing.
yeah, so I end up above pre-being in non-being, like the way I described it was non-beingness, you know. So then kind of awakening to this aspect of non-beingness, then the next part of that was the integration of the polarities of beingness and non-beingness. Through that integration, the realizations of the one that appears in non-beingness is of itself, like the realization of what it is, its nature here, I call intent. So it's intent being like there's power, you know, then there's will that kind of directs power and also births power out of itself, right? And then there's intent that births will, that births power. And intent is more subtle. It's like the very subtle information that permeates and penetrates all the aspects to move in a certain way. You know? And it's not like, go do this thing, you know, it's like, this is the information. Let the information inform everything that moves. let it birth beingness so that beingness can express the information that is subtly informing the presence. And I was experiencing that as masculine in the constellation was engaging with the reps, because the way that they were doing it was like, okay, all the entities, and now there was a subtle, like, as they were sharing, there was a subtle inclusion of all the reps and a subtle directing that was much more subtle than what we might think of as a directing masculine. Okay, now do this, now do that, you know? It was more like, oh, this is noticed, which the noticing is already directing attention to, for the whole group, you know, to appear as a certain way and to move in a subtle direction. It was like taking the information and gently reminding each aspect of themselves through the informing. Really.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like there's a relationship with that intention versus will with the introduction of compassion that 22 mentioned. Because at one point, I don't even remember what I was sharing, but I was sharing something. Oh, maybe it's when maybe it is when the breakthrough happened, and then 22 mentioned they were feeling compassion, which feels so much more linked in with that intention and information versus will. I mean, I feel like will is like a little bit more, you know, tough love, you know, very directed, sort of militaristic sort of idea of masculine that we've had.
Thank you.
Although I did say, I'm also noticing the impulse to bring, like, to be connected into the heart. Like, I remember, like, saying at that point, there was the information, but I was also having, I think I said something like that.
Okay. So the progression of this intent, you know, the merging of intent into beingness creates and births a whole new being. And the way that it does that is it progresses down into the rest of the body, but through the heart. So I'm saying down, but in order to get to the source of the intent, it has to come from behind, which is actually a deeper part of the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So it's simultaneously coming from a deeper part of the heart, but also appearing as coming down. And when the process is full, what we are calling beingness is simply an emanation of source. And so I think it was the new earth, or masculine, that talked about the
I actually moved backwards.
being an emanation. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I moved backwards, and I said I'm not sure why, but I feel I want to move backwards.
Yeah.
It changed the whole setup, you know, it brought in a different, like, new information doing that.
Yeah, I keep having, I'm back in my head a little bit more now, but I keep having this sort of recall, and it's a little bit more personal with my particular gene keys, but because my radiance and life purpose are 18 and 19. But what he talks about is how those are related to, 17 and 18, how those are related to the left brain, more masculine left brain, and how he says it's so ironic that the sort of very mechanism that created all the problems we have now around separation on our planet are actually, when they move into the gift, are going to be the very things that solve the separation and quote unquote problems in the new earth. So it's just interesting to kind of put that piece in there too.
I also noticed, I was like, what's really interesting is yesterday I was having a discussion with a group of people, and they were telling me about this book called Baby Sun Revelations. I don't know if anyone's read it. and it's related to the core of the earth and the crystal structure and birth giving and the sun. And I haven't read it. I don't know what it's about, but during the constellation, I kept having this experience of going from what felt like the more human experience in the constellation in a way. I would kept popping out to the like outer atmosphere of the earth and aware of like the electromagnetic field of the earth from above rather than from within. And yeah, I'm just kind of sharing that I was having quite a holographic awareness of yeah, kind of losing the train of thought now. Don't know why I'm saying that now.
It feels like we're maybe losing contact with the reps a little bit, which is okay. Like I'm happy to hear some reflections, you know, from people. And then I also invite you to kind of maybe do both, like feel into what is you and your uniqueness and how the reflections come. But then also, for example, like math, I'm wondering now, my question would be saying those things as masculine, you know, how is masculine related to the electrification in the atmosphere, for example? And I'm also aware that the new earth was wanting to say something a bit ago, so I'll make space for that.
Yeah, and it's gone now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even think of about the question you just asked. I'm kind of going back into the mushy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I will say that I'm finding this idea of masculine that we're working with much more aligned to, and this is Peapod speaking, how I feel as a man. That there is this desire to nurture and tend and create, but it's not, it isn't that willful, directive, commanding form of masculine that we normally think. And I love that that is the type of masculine that is feeding the new earth. Yeah. Especially with all the unborn behind them.
Yeah. That's really moving. Yeah.
Yeah, this is very relevant to my life right now.
Just, you know, it starts to feel like the toxic masculinity is going to disappear.
Yeah, I mean, just having the awareness of it is this masculinity that's ushering in the new earth, kind of already is very transformative to so-called toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Total Zach Bush masculinity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say that once more.
I said it's total Zach Bush masculinity.
Zach Bush, okay.
Yeah, and it's amazing to feel it as a woman too, like as that, like being the woman, you know, being in a woman's body and expression of a woman and feeling that aspect of me.
As electricity the yeah, like the feeling was when I could hear 22 the masculine talking, like it that's when I could relax on the earth, knowing that they were managing everything.
Mm.
And I almost said, oh, I think Bert, well, I can't remember the numbers, but I thought Lindy and Fleur were my parents. It felt like that. And it felt like parents who were both on it so much that I could just like chill.
Yeah.
And the thing that was happening with the earth, the new earth, when there was all that movement, it was like the storm or the ending of that higher up electricity. Then once I settled on the ground, then the new earth seemed in sync with me at that point. And I wasn't, do you know what I mean? Like the divisiveness or the struggle or whatever was like, it wasn't like they were really bugging me, but it just, I could feel the changing, the old going into the new.
Mm.
And so now when I hear the new earth, it's just the most delicious kind of experience.
So one of the,
As
sorry.
electricity, as electrification of the earth, not as Martha, but as Martha too. But as that is a thing that is happening as Martha, there was a massive power struggle last night where I confronted the toxic masculine. I was feeling results of it. And so as I've been sitting here wanting to maintain the electrification of the earth, I have been having a lot of emotions as I'm even considering like, oh, could that be done? Like, could we actually be living without those that like destructive, uncaring for like electrocuting of our nervous system way of living.
I noticed in the past couple of constellations, I have like my antenna up around solar flares in the next 5 years or so. And whether, and that's relationship to the grid. So for example, whether we would have a solar flare that would take the grid down. And in the past couple of constellations, it's been really hot for me. Like I keep seeing it there and then questioning myself, like, am I just seeing it because I have my antenna up or what? So at the beginning of this constellation, I could feel a part of me like, look, the grid's gonna go down. In order to reach the new earth, the grid has to go down, but then I come to the place of like, well, when all the aspects are in harmony, maybe either it's not like it's our state of being can be independent of the grid, like in this case, or the grid goes down not because of a solar flare or something dramatic, but because consciousness has changed the way that we electrify the earth so that it becomes more Tesla-like, for example, which is grounded, into the earth. And
Something was coming up for me before you started sharing, and I noticed it was integrating as you were sharing, and it was around, because we're talking about the toxic masculine. I kept like, my awareness kept going to competitiveness or like, kind of that needing to evolve or get somewhere gene, Um, and yeah, so I was just noticing that soften as you were sharing.
It's interesting you mentioned Tesla, because earlier I was feeling that when we were talking about the masculine, I was feeling like a switch from sort of the Edison to the Tesla, ideology. And in terms of speaking from birth, what I'm realizing is that I forgot that I said it, but at the very beginning I said, like, I feel very masculine. And now I feel very feminine. So it's interesting that the concept of births has swung so far over to align with toxic masculine. And I think there was like something about that breakdown and the remembrance and the recognition that happened in the middle, and then it created the mushiness, and now the mushiness is feeling like it's very aligned and in touch with the earth. And I remember I also said at the beginning, I feel really disconnected from the earth. I don't feel like, I feel like the AI thing. So it's interesting to think of, I mean, it is and it isn't, I guess, birth in and of itself as being feminine, I mean, obviously, like, I know women give birth, but it's like the portal in and of itself of birth feeling very feminine, but how that needs to be in right relationship with masculine in order for it to be, uh, what's the word? Activated, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and held through the process, like nurtured as ages roll.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how birth is experiencing the new earth at the moment.
It just feels like finally I can be myself, like birth on the other earth, birth on the other earth. Felt like it pushed me into the box of the toxic masculinity. It pushed me into this, data like pristine yet, cold clinical thing. And now it's like being a portal for the birthing of a new earth. And also, I don't know, it's like, it's almost like a double relationship, like the goddess, or like the goddess stories where they're like, I forget which goddess, but like, so and so was her son, but it was also her lover, like it feels like this relationship is multifaceted, birth with the new earth.
Well, as we're going, it's, to me, the gap between Homo Luminous and New Earth is just closed, because there's no difference between the people and the earth. And I was crying when you were sharing as birth, and because having done so much work with people healing prenatal trauma and birth trauma, and recognizing what happens in that moment of birth affects the person for the rest of their life, and the consciousness of the inhabitants of the earth, and how that's directly related to the warmth has been removed and the disconnection from the earth in the birthing process. People have these memories of like coming into the world and being grabbed and with forceps and light, like this terrible light from the surgery, like shining in their eyes. And it creates that disconnect that makes people come to the earth like an AI. And then we create AI,
Oh, chills everywhere. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like the return of that, the going into the collapse and the mushiness, and being directed by this masculine, this divine masculine coming in to become the new birth is the new earth. Like the new birthing is the new earthing. Oh my God.
Yeah, and even on just a personal, micro macrocosm on a personal level, just my own experience with birth was cesarean, and I was taken away from my mother, and I didn't see her for 24 hours, and so how, like, I feel that emotion of like how healing it is to be able to like start with that version of birth in my body and to let it collapse into mushiness and to feel it expanding and becoming something else. So like I don't have to live with that imprint of birth for the rest of my life.
Yeah, exactly. And that,
Totally. Yeah.
as you're saying, talking about the mushiness, it feels to me like the return to mother, the return to the earth. Like that's how you feel when you're born and you're held in your mom's arms. You just, you know,
Absolutely.
I'm getting also that the strong masculine just needs to relax.
yeah.
Like it's the toxicity is a buildup of the tension that and like there's a lot of capacity for identification with like look, this is Fleur speaking now, like responsibility or taking care of things, and the relaxation is kind of deepening in, going into the masculine, going back into his deepest nature, and can kind of all that happens from without having to be someone.
Yeah. That feels profound.
I notice as birth, my body just like, I want to sit like this, I want to sit with my legs spread open like this. It feels so comfortable. It feels like returning to this like core essence that I forgot,
Yeah.
And I feel very sensual too. It's so funny because at the beginning I felt just polar opposite. Just like I think I mentioned the ballerina, and I always look at ballet as being sort of this dance form that's just so masculine derived and so out of touch with sensuality. I mean, it's beautiful in this very mechanistic way, but now it's like I feel this like sense of like, if that was the ballet end of the spectrum, now I feel like I'm in like the sort of like African dance, like in the earth rooted, pelvic, thrusts and rotation and hip movements and circles and yeah.
Kind of like how the new earth was moving earlier.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking, you've gone from ballet to the postmodern. But yes, there was some African movement happening.
Yeah.
That whole undulation, and that it's remaining, it swells and ebbs and flows.
Wow, and it feels really, really poignant too when you think about sort of the toxic masculine that has kind of taken over Western culture and how it's treated the African continent, like a destruction. And it feels like, wow, it really was almost like this destruction of the feminine that they were trying to enact. And I feel like this part of this birthing in the new earth is bringing that focus and attention back onto the wisdom of the African continent.
I'm starting to feel a really deep compassion for what we're calling the toxic masculine, because I feel like the drive is still there to take care of things, but it's just become twisted. Like, yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was really sweet to see masculine protecting the children in the constellation. And and noticing the difference between that, the energy of that protection, or protection in like toxic masculine versus the masculine that was showing up. And they're both protecting, but just the way of it is different.
Sorry, when did you feel the toxic version in the constellation?
I didn't feel it in the constellation. I felt the contrast between like
Okay, right. Yeah.
how the masculine was protecting in the constellation versus like how it appears in the twisted world, you know.
I mean, from the few births I've held space for, you know, I can see when the partners haven't, like the last one I did, you know, the partner kind of disengaged. I could see that his inability to show up was intimate to his wanting to protect the process. He felt he needed to remove himself to do that, you know.
Right. It feels to me like we're coming into a good coherence and harmony, and I'm just wondering if there's any loose ends that want addressing or anything needed from any of the reps.
I think this has been the most profound constellation I've done.
Yeah, I've been so moved. I mean,
Yeah, I can't quite get over how intimate this is to the flood constellation right now. And just with the astrology we're about to step into, like, perfect.
it feels possible right now that what came up in the constellation could actually be the reality.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like, and now let's do it.
It does
Now
feel very real.
it is done.
I would like to believe that that is exactly what's happening.
Mm-hmm. It makes me feel so purposeful in our constellations because I do have the visceral experience of the work that we're doing is actually a piece of the fabric of what's happening, you know, like we're participating and it's making an effect or an impact, and that feels amazing.
I felt there was a lot of grace today. Like it felt very simple and integrated, and yeah, like really, really clean. Appreciating that.
Yeah, I'm feeling, you know, kind of what you're saying about like it feels purposeful, like it's actually, like I do feel like there's maybe even a dual thing happening where it's a creation of the template, but it's also actually like on another timeline, it's actually physically creating, you know, some change and shifts. And I'm just feeling really grateful because like I had something else I was doing today and I actually changed it because I was like, I just felt like I had to be here for this constellation. So it feels very like, yeah.
Really.
Well, I know that I'm working with a lot of men right now who are creating things, giving birth to projects, and on the outside they can seem like sensitive, caring men, but they're removed from themselves. And so this is so helpful to have it integrate into my world, like the compassion piece, because it was both a personal event where I had to feel how much my partner's always been removed, with his like wanting to protect us, protect me. And I was so pissed. And so now I've moved into another thing. And so it feels like, you know, these really important projects. I'd worked with Sarah Sutherland on Tuesday, and she was naming it like there's still this thing with the masculine that's not happening, or I don't know what her words were, but I just love the way that all of this work integrates. Even it gets stepped up with each constellation in all my other little facets. It's really deep.
Well, I mean, birth reality things on the island where I live right now is very alive. We're protesting daily outside the hospital here to have it reopened. The maternity ward was closed, and there's a lot of toxicity here around birth, and I've been very involved in kind of trying to facilitate change, and so it feels very much like there's a living playground for that alchemy to like. I'd like to. I was feeling it today. I was wondering, like, gosh, there must be like, you know, so there's groups going daily to protest outside the hospital. I was just feeling like, there's an easier way than this. Like, this feels like, you know, a lot of energy, and what is like the other options? I feel excited to hold this specifically with that, you know, this level of the masculine. And yeah.
I'm excited for the energy of what we've done to infiltrate Pantelleria, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel that relaxation of the strong masculine needs to happen because there's a toxicity there. There's like a lot of strong masculines activated trying to like force the change, you know, and there's a lot of energy and it's exhausted. Everyone's exhausted, and it feels like, you know.
yeah. Okay. Well, it's only 4:30, but I have this sense that we're complete.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Did we answer the question? What is Homo Luminous?
That's a good question. Did we answer the question? Anyone want to?
I mean, I feel like we did.
Yeah, I feel like we did, but so specific to the moment.
I feel like there's like a paradigm that we created and witnessed around the integration of electrification with the earth, and how we are the earth. Like I mean, I feel like, yeah, I feel like it always comes back to that integration with the earth, and ultimately, which when I feel like electrification and the earth, I feel like it comes back to the masculine feminine integration. So it feels like Homo Luminous is ultimately about the masculine feminine integration, but it won't fully be apparent until the new earth is birthed. That's kind of how I would encapsulate what I got, at least right now. Maybe more will come later. I'm sure it will.
Totally agree with the integration of
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, Peapod, because it feels important that we visit that before we finish.
well, since it was the intent going in.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would, as it had been running through my brain. I'm looking at what the 4 reps that came in to explain.
Yeah.
And yeah, just even playing like, with
Yeah.
sentence of like masculine birth, electrification of the new earth.
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
Are you finished, Peapod, or are you in a
I
thought?
am. I am.
Because like it was very, I think when electrification, there was electrification of the electrification when they witnessed the new earth. And I think even specifically like the masculine in the new earth masculine or the Homo Luminous, the old electrification, like there was a dissonance with those two. So it, I'm feeling a thing like the females, humans now give birth, and in the movement dancing the new earth was doing, the mask there has to be some like intense embodiment for the masculine. The Homo Luminous will be doing this embodiment like nothing we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really exciting. And I'm just saying, like, while the electrification of the earth was moving from electrification, say, of like fake electricity or man-made electricity or manipulated energy, they were like encouraged, they were suppressing the Homo Luminous masculine. So that again gives a compassion piece. Like, well, no wonder the masculine has been the way they are, because everything, the electrification did that. Like, so it's gonna, I wonder if we can in our, like, there doesn't have to be the grid is going down. It's the grid of the masculine embodiment. So like the bodies of the masculine are going to can affect the electrification of the earth now, kind of. So I'm like, get masculine, get dancing. Like Peapod like that. I'm bummed kind of, I have to watch it again because I was so in the thing, I didn't even really get to experience what you were doing because I was so like, stop it.
Yeah, I feel like there's a piece too around kind of what you were speaking to, Thesa, around like it impacts everything. Like how we humans are birthed impacts everything. It creates sort of like this AI, transhumanist kind of society and agenda. And so when we alchemize the very process of birth, then the new people coming onto the planet will just automatically be Homo Luminous, like that, like, well, theoretically, that with evolution and everything else and frequency raising, that's already happening. And then those of us that maybe didn't have, those ideal birthing experiences, that it is possible for us to go back and retemplate ourselves so that we become vessels that could hold the light.
Beautiful. I really connect with everything that you guys have shared on have we answered the question. And it just takes me to what I'm kind of working with in my world, and the marriage of all of the things that have come today, kind of like what Lindy said, you know, if we consider masculine as like that piece that has awakened itself, when it awakens itself up here, and the realization of what it is, like before will, even the effect that that has on the physiology is that it sparks blue light into the waters of the body to become, and that's the process of becoming this emanation of light, essentially, because that's what you are at that level, you know. So I can see how the harmony of all of the reps here creates that and makes that the human, which is Homo Luminous. Like the luminous part is just the practical expression of that blue light that is also life force into the physicality in full embodiment with some of the kind of like practical expressions of that keep coming up are compassion and new earth, rebirthing, retemplating, like birthing anew and rebirthing anew.
Yeah, then I'm also getting the within myself, but also like within the bigger picture. I just keep tuning into what keeping the higher part of the crown from unifying with the crown here, and so getting the kind of the letting go of knowing or going into the unknowable in a new way. So even the kind of awakened masculine needs to let himself go, like how the awakened masculine has appeared on the planet thus so far is needing to like become new, something else.
Mm-hmm. It feels good to come back to the question later too, because you know it's like we've done one iteration of the question and we've gotten kind of like a general answer to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we asked a general question, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because I put like I put a new piece in the elements that we chose from, and then there were specifications on the question in that new piece, but no one picked that piece. So it tells you we weren't ready to get more specific. Like we had to do the general first, and
Yeah, feels quite integrative from all we've done thus so far. Actually.
yeah.
Yeah, I would be fascinated to revisit this question.
Yeah, me too.
and see how it has evolved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great question after a series of constellations. Like, you know,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is it now?
Bring it to a point again within the
Yeah.
movement.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. Usual. I appreciate our time together now, but also just over all we've done over time. Moving to
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, thank you. It's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
okay.
You know what? I want to mention before we all sign off that next Wednesday night,
Oh yeah, your thing.
it's 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Okay.
V is facilitating a constellation for me. And the theme is embracing financial freedom and abundance. So if any of y'all are able to attend, I would love it.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Did you say on Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday, September 9th.
What time?
6 p.m. East Coast. So probably, is that midnight?
Midnight.
Let's see.
Right? Right?
Sounds like good medicine, not just for you, but for anyone participating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
And if I don't see you then till next Thursday, right?
Yeah. Thanks. Nice job facilitating, Thesa.
Yeah. Amazing.
You didn't fall asleep.
I was getting pretty tired by the end, so I can see.
I fell asleep at one point. That was V. Oh, I said, I wonder how V is going to show up. So maybe that was when I fell asleep.
I'm ready to.
Okay.
We all go take
Uh,
a. Okay.
right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.